In a quiet residential neighborhood in Connecticut, Emma Harrison settled onto the living room sofa, gently stroking her 9-month pregnant belly. Her face showed a mixture of joy and anxiety about becoming a mother soon. Outside the window, autumn sunlight gleamed golden, and the maple tree in the yard was beautifully colored. The lawn that her husband Michael had carefully tended was still lush and green. "Good morning, baby," Emma spoke tenderly to her belly. "Let's spend another quiet day together with Mama." Around 10 o'clock in the morning, the front doorbell rang. When Emma slowly stood up and opened the door, her mother Linda was smiling there. Linda had her hair perfectly styled and wore elegant clothing as always, carrying shopping bags in both hands. "Emma, how are you feeling?" Linda asked, kissing her daughter's cheek. "I bought some organic vegetables, thinking about nutrition during pregnancy." "Thank you, Mom. But you don't need to worry so much," Emma said gratefully, though she felt slightly bewildered by her mother's excessive fussing. While organizing the vegetables in the kitchen, Linda said with narrowed eyes, "I'm going to be a grandmother soon. Nothing could make me happier." She lived nearby and had been visiting almost daily since Emma became pregnant. She would cook meals, help with cleaning, and fuss over Emma as if she couldn't do anything by herself. In the early afternoon, her sister Sophia arrived. Being a hairdresser, she appeared with her usual glamorous makeup and trendy outfit. "How are you, sis? How's the baby doing?" Sophia asked brightly while placing her hand on Emma's belly. "I can't wait to meet her. She's going to be my most beloved niece in the world," Emma answered, warmed by her sister's kindness. "I think this little one is looking forward to meeting Aunt Sophia too." The three of them spent the afternoon leisurely, discussing baby names and looking through catalogs of baby supplies. Linda shared her child-rearing experiences, and Sophia talked enthusiastically about the latest parenting trends. At first glance, it looked like a warm family gathering, but Emma had been feeling somewhat uneasy lately. Her husband Michael worked as a project manager for an IT company. Usually, he would come home around 6 in the evening, but recently he had been coming home late more often. Last night he didn't return until after 10 o'clock, explaining that he was busy with a new project. "Michael's been coming home late, hasn't he?" Linda said with concern. "Leaving you alone during your pregnancy?" "It can't be helped. It's an important time for him," Emma answered, defending her husband, though inwardly she felt lonely. Sophia showed a slightly complicated expression and murmured, "Men tend to escape into work when responsibility becomes heavy." In the evening, after her mother and sister had gone home, Emma sat alone in the living room. Recently, she had been sensing subtle changes in her mother's and sister's attitudes. They could no longer have natural conversations as before, and there was a somewhat distant atmosphere. Particularly Sophia's expression would cloud whenever Michael's name came up. Michael came home at 9:30 in the evening. Appearing tired at the entrance, he gave Emma a light kiss before immediately going to take a shower. Previously, he would talk to the baby in her belly or show concern for Emma's condition, but recently such moments had become fewer. While lying in bed, Emma stared at the ceiling. Even though it was such an important time before childbirth, somehow a shadow of anxiety had fallen over her heart. Even though all her family members should love her, she had begun to feel distant from them somehow. The next morning, Emma woke up with a dull abdominal pain. Looking at the clock, it was 5:30 in the morning. When she looked beside her, Michael's side of the bed was already empty. A note was left on the bedside table, reading, "Emergency meeting, leaving early. Won't be back until evening. Take care of yourself. Love, Michael." Emma slowly got up and placed her hand on her belly. The pain wasn't particularly severe, but there was a heaviness she had never felt before. "There are still 2 weeks until the due date," she murmured as she headed to the kitchen. Instead of coffee, she made herbal tea and tried to make toast, but suddenly felt nauseous and lost her appetite. Around 8 in the morning, the doorbell rang again. When Emma opened the door, her mother Linda and sister Sophia were standing there together. Both had visited earlier than usual. "Good morning, Emma," Linda frowned when she saw her daughter's complexion. "You don't look well. Are you okay?" "Actually, I've had a slight stomachache since this morning," Emma answered honestly. Sophia approached with concern. "That's serious. Today we both happen to have the day off, so we'll stay with you." "But both Mom and Sophia must be busy," Emma said hesitantly. "What are you saying?" Linda placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. "We're family, so it's natural. Let us take care of you all day today." Linda began preparing breakfast in the kitchen, and Sophia sat with Emma on the living room sofa. However, Emma sensed a subtle unease in their behavior. The conversations that would usually flow naturally felt somewhat awkward. "Where's Michael?" Sophia asked casually. "He left early for an emergency meeting." "He's been really busy lately," Emma answered thoughtfully about her husband. Sophia's expression clouded for a moment, but she quickly put on a bright smile. "I see. That must be hard for Michael too." Around 10 o'clock.
Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious.
Emma's abdominal pain became slightly stronger. She thought it might be false labor, but it was still irregular and not particularly worrying. "Maybe you should lie down for a bit," Linda suggested. "I'll make lunch for you." Emma lay down on the sofa, and Sophia placed a cushion she had brought behind her back. Linda would come check on her occasionally while cooking in the kitchen. "You need to drink plenty of fluids." Linda brought a large glass filled with ice water. "Dehydration during pregnancy is dangerous." Emma drank the water as instructed. Strangely, she was thirsty, so she drank about half of it at once. "Drink a little more," Sophia also urged with concern. "Fluids are especially important when you're not feeling well." When lunchtime came, Linda had prepared vegetable soup and salad. Emma didn't have much appetite, but she forced herself to eat, not wanting to waste her mother's kindness. "Have you been sleeping well lately?" Linda asked with concern. "I wake up several times during the night, but I think that's normal during pregnancy," Emma answered. "Even so, you need to rest properly," Sophia added. "Childbirth is all about stamina." Around 2 in the afternoon, Emma was suddenly overcome by strong drowsiness. It was abnormally intense drowsiness for after lunch. "I'm getting a bit sleepy," Emma said while yawning. "That's good," Linda smiled gently. "Your body is asking for rest." Emma began to doze off while lying on the sofa. As her consciousness became hazy, she could hear her mother and sister having a quiet conversation. "Going smoothly," her mother's voice. "Yes, it's working faster than expected," her sister's reply. "Soon now," her mother's whisper. Emma couldn't understand what they were talking about, but the drowsiness was so strong that she couldn't think clearly. Around 3 in the afternoon, Emma woke up with abdominal pain. This time the pain was clearly stronger than in the morning and had become regular. "Mom, the pain is getting stronger," Emma said anxiously. Linda and Sophia looked at each other. "There's still time until the due date, so it must be false labor," Linda answered calmly. "That's right, with first pregnancies, false labor can continue for a long time," Sophia agreed. However, Emma's intuition told her differently. This pain felt like real labor. "But maybe I should call the hospital just in case," Emma started to say, but Sophia interrupted her. "It's still too early. Even if you go to the hospital, they'll just send you home saying it's not time yet." "That's right. Let's wait and see a little more," Linda agreed. Emma tried to contact Michael with her cell phone, but she couldn't find it anywhere. "I wonder where I put my phone," Emma looked around. "Isn't it connected to the charger?" Sophia answered casually. "The most important thing right now is for you to rest. By 4 in the afternoon, Emma's pain had become even more intense, and the intervals had shortened. Real labor had clearly begun. "Mom, I think this is real labor," Emma pleaded, her face contorted with pain. "It's okay, there's still time," Linda remained calm as always. "But the pain is so strong," Emma's eyes filled with tears. "First births take time. It was the same when I had you," Linda held her daughter's hand. "Just bear with it a little longer." Sophia brought ice water from the kitchen. "Drink this and take deep breaths." Emma drank the water as instructed, but this time she felt nauseous. Her body alternated between feeling hot and cold, clearly not in a normal state. Around 5 o'clock, Emma's vision began to blur occasionally. In addition to the labor pains, she felt increasing fatigue throughout her body. "Something's wrong, something's very wrong," Emma said in a trembling voice. Her mother and sister looked at each other, exchanging glances as if confirming something. "It's okay, Emma," Linda's voice lacked its previous warmth. "It'll be over soon." "What will be over soon?" Emma was confused. Sophia looked out the window and murmured, "Good thing Michael's running late." For the first time then, Emma realized a terrifying possibility. Her mother and sister's attitude seemed as if they were waiting for something. However, her consciousness was hazy, and she couldn't think clearly. Emma's mind was in chaos from the labor pains and an inexplicable anxiety. Outside, evening was approaching, and long shadows fell across the room. Around 6 o'clock, Emma was completely awakened by excruciating pain. This pain was incomparably more intense than before, like her body was being torn apart from the inside. Her belly became hard as stone, and the waves of pain made it difficult to breathe. Emma involuntarily cried out. "Mom, help me. Take me to the hospital." Linda and Sophia looked down at Emma with cold detachment, as if watching a play. Their previous worried expressions had completely disappeared, replaced by cold indifference. "You're being dramatic," Linda said with crossed arms, sounding almost annoyed. "If you just rest quietly, it'll get better. Everyone goes through this." Emma couldn't believe her mother's words. This was clearly full labor, and something was definitely not normal. Sharp pains shot through her lower abdomen, and intense pain spread to her back. "Mom, this isn't normal. Something's wrong," Emma pleaded through tears. "Please, call an ambulance." Sophia let out a laugh. It was completely different from her previous gentle smile, a cold, mocking laugh. "Do you really need to go to the hospital?" Sophia said in a light tone, running her fingers through her hair as if listening to a friend's complaints. "Why don't you just give birth by yourself? That's what women used to do." Emma felt her blood run cold. Her sister's eyes held no trace of the loving expression from before, replaced instead by cold calculation. "Sophia, what are you saying?" Emma said in a trembling voice. "I'm your sister. Your niece is about to be born." "Niece?" Sophia laughed again. "Oh, that's right. But having that child around would be quite troublesome." Emma couldn't understand the meaning of her sister's words. The labor pains confused her thoughts, but she was certain something terrible was happening. Around 6:30, Emma's pain became even more intense, and she noticed blood seeping into her underwear. It was clearly abnormal bleeding. "There's blood," Emma's face went pale with fear. "Mom, please. I'm going to die. The baby's in danger too." Linda didn't change her expression even when she saw her daughter's blood. "You're worrying too much. Childbirth is like that." "But there's so much blood," Emma desperately pleaded. "You don't know because it's your first child," Linda said coldly. "This much is normal. Aren't you embarrassed making such a fuss?" Emma tried to get up from the sofa to look for her cell phone, but intense pain and dizziness brought her to her knees on the floor. Her vision blurred, and cold sweat ran down her forehead. "Phone, where's my phone?" Emma crawled around searching. "Oh, I'm keeping that for you." Sophia took Emma's cell phone out of her pocket and showed it. The battery was about to die. "Give it back." Emma reached out, but Sophia held the phone high where she couldn't reach it. "The important thing now is for you to rest," Sophia smiled meanly. "You don't want to worry Michael, do you?" Emma then began to faintly realize the meaning behind mentioning Michael's name. Her husband's recent change in attitude, his late arrivals, and today's abnormal behavior from her mother and sister. Everything was starting to connect. "You couldn't mean, with Michael?" Emma whispered in a trembling voice. Sophia's expression changed for a moment, but she quickly returned to her cold smile. "What are you talking about?" Around 7 o'clock, Emma's labor pains had reached their limit. Waves of pain crashed over her without pause, making it difficult to breathe. The bleeding increased, and her consciousness began to fade. "Help me," Emma collapsed on the floor, whispering in a weak voice. "Someone, help me." "No one's coming." Linda looked down with crossed arms. "The house next door left for vacation today, and the elderly couple on the other side are hard of hearing." Emma shuddered at her mother's words. It sounded as if they had deliberately chosen today. Why are you doing this?" Emma looked up with a face streaked with tears and sweat. "What did I ever do?" "You didn't do anything wrong," Sophia said in a sympathetic tone, but her eyes remained cold. "You're just in the way." Emma's vision became even more blurred. In addition to the labor pains, she began to lose strength throughout her body. In her hazy consciousness, she thought they might have mixed something in the water. "Michael," Emma called her husband's name. "Michael, come home." "Michael's not coming home," Sophia said cruelly. "He's probably trying to contact me right about now." Around 7:30, Emma was curled up on the floor, unable to even call for help anymore. Her mother and sister were drinking tea in the kitchen as if nothing was happening. "It'll be over soon," Linda murmured coldly. "Yes, it was faster than expected," Sophia replied. Emma listened to their conversation while feeling desperate. She couldn't believe that the family members she trusted most had betrayed her and put her life in danger. Around 8 o'clock, Emma's consciousness became intermittent. Even the pain seemed to be fading away, and she wondered if this was what dying felt like. Thinking about the baby in her belly filled her with feelings of regret. "I'm sorry, baby," Emma apologized in her heart. "Mommy was weak and couldn't protect you." Just then, she heard voices coming from the direction of the neighboring house. "Are you all right?" I heard loud voices. It was the voice of Mrs. Johnson, who lived nearby. She was a woman in her 70s who lived alone, and Emma often exchanged greetings with her over the garden fence. Linda and Sophia's expressions tensed for a moment. "Nothing's wrong," Linda shouted toward the front door. "Emma's just making a little noise because she's in labor." "But it sounded like screaming," Mrs. Johnson's worried voice continued. Emma used her last bit of strength to try to shout, but no voice came out. However, she was able to make noise by pounding the floor. "Help me," Emma screamed in her heart while desperately pounding the floor. Hearing that sound, Mrs. Johnson called out loudly, "Emma, are you all right?" Emma's vision went completely dark, and all sounds faded away. The next time Emma regained consciousness, she was on a hospital bed surrounded by white ceiling and the smell of disinfectant. The fluorescent lights were dazzling, and she couldn't keep her eyes open for a while. Monitor cords were connected all over her body, and an 4 tube was inserted in her arm. "Emma, you're awake," came a gentle woman's voice. When Emma slowly turned her face, a middle-aged nurse was looking at her with concern. "Where am I?" Emma asked in a hoarse voice. "St. Mary's Hospital." "You were brought here by ambulance," the nurse offered a cup of water. "Please drink slowly." Emma took the cup with trembling hands while trying to trace her memories. Her mother and sister's cold expressions, the intense labor pains, and collapsing on the floor. She wanted to think it had all been a bad dream, but the pain in her body told her it was real. The baby, Emma looked anxiously at her belly. It was still slightly swollen but clearly smaller. "She's fine," the nurse smiled reassuringly. "It was a bit premature, but she's a healthy baby girl. She's in the neonatal intensive care unit being monitored." Emma shed tears of relief. At least the baby was safe. However, she still didn't understand why this had happened. Just then, there was a knock on the hospital room door, and a middle-aged man in a suit entered. She could immediately tell he was a police officer from his authoritative presence. "You're Emma Harrison, aren't you?" "I'm Detective Johnson," the man introduced himself while sitting in a chair. "How are you feeling? Why is a police officer here?" Emma was confused. "I'd like to ask you about the circumstances when you collapsed," Detective Johnson explained in a gentle tone. "But first, please be assured that your baby is truly safe." Emma felt somewhat relieved by the detective's words, but she couldn't understand why the police were involved. "We received a call from your neighbor, Mrs. Johnson," the detective began explaining. "She was worried when she heard your screams, and although she first called out to your family members, she felt something was wrong and contacted the police." Emma traced her memory. She did remember hearing Mrs. Johnson's voice just before losing consciousness. "When the police arrived, you were collapsed on the floor bleeding." Detective Johnson's expression became stern. "However, your mother and sister were not trying to help you. That must have been because," Emma tried to defend her family. "They probably panicked and didn't know what to do." "Emma," the detective said quietly. "When we asked why they weren't calling an ambulance, your mother said, 'There's no need to make a big fuss.' Your sister was laughing and said, she should just give birth by herself." Emma was speechless. That cruel attitude had been real. "Furthermore, when we investigated, we found that your cell phone had been deliberately hidden," the detective continued. "It was discovered in your sister's pocket." Emma's heart pounded. Everything had been planned. Why would they do such a thing? Emma asked in a trembling voice. Detective Johnson hesitated for a moment but decided to tell her the truth. "Emma, have you noticed anything about the relationship between your husband and your sister?" It took Emma several seconds to understand the meaning of the detective's words. Then all the pieces came together. Michael's late arrivals, Sophia's complicated expressions, her mother's abnormal cooperation. "You can't mean Michael and Sophia were..." Emma went pale. "I'm sorry, but it's true," the detective showed a sympathetic expression. "We discovered they've been having a relationship for about a year." Emma stared at the ceiling, understanding everything. Her beloved husband and sister were having an affair, and she and the baby had become obstacles. "So they tried to..." Emma cried. "Your husband and sister seemed to think they could continue their relationship if something happened to you," the detective explained with a stern expression. "Your mother was supporting your sister's romance." Emma remembered her mother's words. She had said, everyone has different talents, but in reality, she was prepared to abandon one of her daughters. "We've arrested all three of them," Detective Johnson announced. "On suspicion of attempted murder." "Attempted murder," Emma repeated the words. "According to the doctor's diagnosis, there's a high probability that sleeping medication was intentionally mixed into your drinking water," the detective explained. "Also, despite the fact that you were in labor, deliberately preventing contact with medical facilities and abandoning you clearly constitutes attempted murder." Emma remembered the water she had been made to drink. The abnormal drowsiness and hazy consciousness. Everything had been planned. "Your husband is currently in custody," the detective continued. "His company has also been informed of the facts, and he's been fired. He's unable to arrange bail." "What about Sophia?" Emma asked in a trembling voice. "Proceedings are underway to revoke her beautician's license. Her customers learned about this incident and completely lost trust in her," the detective answered. Your mother has also become a big topic in the neighborhood and is in an isolated situation. Emma had complicated feelings. Along with anger toward her family, there was sadness that what had been built over many years had crumbled in an instant. The three of them are currently blaming each other, the detective added. Your husband says, Sophia seduced me, your sister claims, mother planned it, and your mother insists, I only wanted my daughter's happiness. Emma felt ironic. The family that had seemed united would betray each other when push came to shove. Just then, a nurse came in carrying a baby wrapped in a small blanket. She seems to want to meet her mother, the nurse smiled gently. Emma held her daughter with trembling hands. The small, warm life was breathing quietly in her arms. What's this child's name? The nurse asked. Emma thought about it. She no longer wanted to use the name she had originally planned with Michael. Lily, Emma smiled. Lily Harrison. I want her to grow up pure like a white lily. Detective Johnson stood up. Emma, it will be difficult from now on, but you have many people on your side. Starting with your neighbor Mrs. Johnson, your true friends will support you. Emma looked at her daughter and made up her mind. This child and I will start a new life together. That's for the best, the detective said warmly. Blood relations alone don't make a family. True family are the people who help you when you're in trouble. Emma held Lily's small hand. Indeed, at the most crucial time, it wasn't her blood relatives who helped her, but the kindness of a neighbor. 6 months had passed since then. In the small apartment's living room where warm spring sunlight streamed in, Emma was holding her daughter Lily on her lap while reading a picture book. Lily had grown healthy and looked at Emma with clear blue eyes, occasionally laughing out loud. The trial had ended 3 months ago. Michael received a 5-year prison sentence for attempted murder. After being fired from the IT company, he couldn't even pay bail and remained in custody, but after the verdict he was transferred to state prison. Sophia also received a 3-year prison sentence as an accomplice, and her beautician's license was permanently revoked. Linda received a suspended sentence considering her age, but her standing in the neighborhood was completely lost. The three continued to blame each other until the very end. In court, Michael claimed, I loved my wife, but Sophia seduced me. Sophia tearfully pleaded, Mother made the plan, and Linda kept repeating, I only wanted my daughter's happiness. However, the evidence was clear, and there was no doubt it was a planned crime. Emma had completed divorce proceedings and received half of the shared assets with Michael. On her lawyer's advice, she had also sold the house and moved to a small apartment. It was in a quiet residential area, and her neighbor Mrs. Johnson lived nearby. Emma, Lily seems to be in a good mood again today, Mrs. Johnson called out through the window. Yes, thank goodness, Emma smiled in response. Mrs. Johnson was the benefactor who had saved Emma's life that night. Since then, she had been caring for Lily like a real grandmother. Though they weren't blood-related, their emotional bond was much deeper than blood relations. Emma was currently studying to become a registered nurse at the local community college. During the day she left Lily at daycare, and at night she devoted herself to studying. The days were hard, but having a goal made each day fulfilling. You know, Lily, Emma spoke to her daughter. Mommy is going to become strong. To protect you, and to help people in similar situations. Her experience at the hospital had shown Emma a new direction in life. The warmth of the nurses and doctors at that time, and feeling anew the preciousness of life, made her want to work in the medical field. Lily was now 6 months old and had learned to roll over, moving around actively. When she saw Emma's face, she would always show a smile and had begun making sounds similar to the word mama. Emma sometimes thought about her past family. However, rather than anger or resentment, she felt more pity. What she had thought was love had actually been false, and true love existed in places unrelated to blood ties. In the evening, while Emma was studying, there was a knock at the door. When she opened it, other mothers from the same daycare were standing there. Emma, we're having a picnic this weekend. Would you like to come with us? Lily can play with the other children too. Emma felt warmth in her heart. These people were Emma's new family. People bound by true bonds, helping each other and sharing the worries of child rearing. That night, while putting Lily to bed, Emma whispered quietly. Lily, Mommy is truly happy now. Because you're here with me, and because there are people who support us. Lily showed a peaceful sleeping face. Emma opened her nursing school textbook while thinking. The past betrayal had certainly left deep wounds, but that experience had made her stronger. And most importantly, it had taught her what was truly important. Family isn't determined by blood relations. It's the people who extend a helping hand when you're in trouble, who share joy with you, and who love each other unconditionally. Emma gently kissed Lily's forehead and whispered, "Good night, my treasure." Tomorrow would bring another day of their new life together. Warm days filled with hope.